Red leader to gold leader. Red leader to gold leader. Come in, gold leader.
Gold leader and red leader. I hear you loud and clear.
Excellent, gold leader. And how are you doing there?
Wonderful here in the south of France. It's night now, but a warm one at that.
Beautiful, beautiful. Excellent. All right. Well, gold leader, we are planning our assault on essentially the Death Star. The Death Star in this metaphor is not another, sphere separate from planet Earth, but in this case, the Death Star has engulfed planet Earth, and it is the layer of humanity, and specifically all of our destructive practices and lifestyles and exploitation of Mother Earth and destruction of the atmosphere, the ice caps, the oceans, and water and land and air generally throughout the planet. So we're essentially converting planet Earth into a Death Star, and that is what we are here to combat.
Indeed, and I stand ready to defend Mother Earth, however I can.
Thank you, gold leader. Thank you, gold leader. Well, the whole red team is likewise standing at the ready to defend Mother Earth. And we've been at the ready for quite some time, so we're stepping out and taking action. And so I'm gonna swoop in and draw their fire as an initial step. And specifically, we're going straight to the target of the pure evil of criminal drug cartels. We are determined to purge all criminal drug cartels from the state of Washington as quickly as possible, using the collective intelligence of all Washingtonians. And I sometimes make the analogy that it's kind of like, there's a school with 1,000 kids in the playground, and there's one bully going around with a baseball bat and just cracking people, right, wherever he can, and everyone's running from the bully, and no one's really standing up to the bully. But if the kids all at once simply said, you know what, enough is enough, and they stood up to the bully, sure, a couple of them might, get a crack or two, but while he's swinging at the guys in front of him, the guys from behind grab his arms and legs and just, let's just say they eliminate the problem, right? The problem being the bullying, not necessarily the bully as a human being, but the bullying, right?
The behavior.
It's the behavior, yeah, and it's not so much that that we're out to get any specific individuals. We simply want the institutions of criminal drug cartels to go away. And if people who used to work for the cartels can find gainful employment doing something much more peaceful, agriculture or whatever, something that's productive, that's good for society, then have at it.
Yeah, and if you need a raise in the minimum wage, move to Seattle.
Yeah, totally.
Join us.
Right. Exactly.
We have the highest minimum wage in the nation.
But really, it's interesting you should mention that. I mean, that's something I actually support. And I'm also in support of a radical transformation of the entire global economy. Because for us to be able to have any hope at all of saving planet Earth, given the degree of destruction that we've done, and which is ongoing and actually accelerating, we need a radical transformation in our set of living arrangements, in our culture, in what we do, how we walk the earth, what stuff.
We're talking on a planetary level.
Exactly. So, and
it's like view the planet from outer space, right? The beautiful blue marble, right, as a whole.
Yeah, exactly. Looking at our world as a whole in the macro and saying, okay, what's going on? And what's going on is that we are running rampant, committing crimes against Mother Earth and crimes against each other. And that absolutely needs to stop. And these rampant crimes need to be replaced by healing, by actions of healing, by intentions of healing, and collaborative, cooperative effort for healing ourselves and our planet. Yeah, go ahead, Michael.
Whatever the crimes may be, whatever they may be, from, you know, drug cartels to simply, you know, corporate exploitation. The impetus is the same: greed and fear.
Absolutely.
Right. It's an economy of greed and fear, of hoarding.
Yeah.
And that's what's got to stop. And, but, you know, in a triage situation in a hospital, for example, where you have, you know, multiple emergencies, you have to gauge the seriousness of the threat. Yeah. Right. And that's why we're going after the drug cartels first and foremost, because it's based upon a calculus, the calculus of triage.
Yeah, that's one way of looking at it. You know, another way of looking at it, because also from a calculus of triage, reversing climate change is absolutely urgent. I mean, beyond urgent. I mean, it's so many orders of magnitude more urgent than pretty much any other problem I can think of right now, simply because we're in the process of going over the cliff into the abyss of abrupt climate change. We're actually in the midst of abrupt climate change right now. But
even as we continue to act, right, to behave in a way that's actually causing the problem.
Exactly. We're just accelerating the problem because, you know, first and foremost, we're not even acknowledging that there is a problem. We as humanity, right? Yes, there are, you know, 97% of climate scientists and the vast overwhelming majority of educated progressive people agree that climate change is definitely, you know, real, a major problem happening, et cetera, et cetera. And yet it ends. But even with all this awareness, this shared awareness among these, you know, these and many other groups about the severity and threat of climate change, as a whole, as society, like you turn on the news, right, and no one's really talking about climate change and what a massive threat it is to our survival, to the point that Professor Guy McPherson gives us maximum 10 years left as an outer window left for humanity to exist. So because of abrupt climate change, leading to near-term human extinction and the extinction of the vast majority of complex life on Earth, you know, as we turn into a hothouse. You really, those of you who haven't seen it, really have to take the time to just go to YouTube, type in Guy McPherson, and one of the top links is the most important video you'll ever see on climate change. It's about an hour long.
And in addition to that, look for him at the Sierra Club address in what is it, April 27th in Berkeley, California, at the marina.
Exactly, at the Berkeley Yacht Club. You got to make reservations pretty darn quick if you're going to get to that one. I think.
Yeah, the Yacht Club.
Yeah, there's like 1 week left to make a reservation for that. But anyway, yeah, at the Berkeley Yacht Club, Professor Guy McPherson and I will be both giving a talk about abrupt climate change leading to near-term human extinction. That's what Professor McPherson will focus on, and then I will focus on the topics that we're talking about right now and many others related to what we can actually do to solve our problems. And so, actually looking at, you know, the different threats of abrupt climate change and criminal drug cartels, I would say that, you know, just objectively speaking, in the very near term, abrupt climate change is a massively bigger threat than criminal drug cartels.
And that's, I was going to ask precisely the question of why the focus on criminal drug cartels.
Thank you, Gold Leader. So the reason, this is kind of like, I make the analogy to that when the red team and the gold team and all the teams were were there for the presentation back in Star Wars Episode 4.
A New Hope, was it?
A New Hope, and we were, and the time when
Hope.
A New Hope, and when they analyzed, the computer model of the Death Star, they determined, exactly where to strike. And I liken that to doing the kind of global holistic modeling that we've talked about for several years now, which urgently needs to happen as well, so that we can analyze, exactly where and how to reverse abrupt climate change, to stave off abrupt climate change through, combinations of all kinds of technologies, which I won't even begin to go into here. But so while that is absolutely urgent that happen, and we are committed that do happen as quickly as possible. I'll also be speaking at Earth Day. We're sponsoring the Earth Day Teaching Dome this year. So anyway, we'll be all over Earth Day and several other events in the Bay Area in the coming couple weeks. But so we're all over the climate change thing. But so why the focus on criminal drug cartels if climate change is this big scorching urgency that we need to get on top of immediately? The reason is simple. Whereas humanity is not responding to the threat of abrupt climate change, it will respond and is responding to the threat of criminal drug cartels. And so the kind of grand strategy, and this is laid out on the homepage of howtochangetheworld.org, and the text here, which is also the text on a flyer that we're giving out. The grand strategy is that of exponentially growing dominoes, and I highly recommend the video. Just Google 29 dominoes, and it's like the first link. It's the Smithsonian, and you see a video of it. So, whereas criminal drug cartels, in absolute magnitude terms, is a much smaller problem than that of abrupt climate change in magnitude, it is the first domino to fall. It's much more ready to fall. Why? Because people are just absolutely optimized for responding to such threats. And we'll go into the details. But the big picture is we knock that domino over. That then begins to knock over the next domino. And I'm just going to read directly from the flyer. As noted at the beginning, purging criminal drug cartels from the state of Washington is but the first in a series of dominoes, which in turn has three main phases. Multiple dominoes in each phase. Phase 1, purge all criminal drug cartels from the face of the earth, starting with the state of Washington. So that's phase 1. All criminal drug cartels. Phase 2, purge all organized crime from the face of the earth, including crimes against Mother Earth herself. Right there, we're addressing the root causes of climate change, which is our crimes against Mother Earth, including the atmosphere, the oceans, all of Mother Earth. And then phase 3, turn our collective intelligence and indeed power toward the now inevitable topic of stopping and subsequently reversing the destruction of our planet, including reversing climate change. So that's boom, 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 boom. There's the whole exponential domino strategy. We're starting with the domino that is most easy to knock over, which is that of criminal drug cartels. Back to you, Gold Leader.
I absolutely concur that abrupt climate change, as we're experiencing right now, is overall the greatest threat to our own species and countless others. As far as criminal drug cartels goes, that's something that in the state of Washington we're confronting right now, precisely because of legalization. We're not merely talking about your local corner pot dealer before legalization. Now we're talking about corrupt corporations moving in on the industry in the name of legalization. That's precisely what we're combating, because as you can read in the flyer, it's the industry that's perfectly positioned to become the first compassionate industry, and hence go on from there to inspire other industries to do the same. Why the cannabis industry? Because it's the first. It's the first compassionate industry insofar as its very premise, because before it was legalized recreationally, it was legalized medically in some states, including the state of Washington, and it was deemed a compassionate thing to do, to legalize. And so from there, we want to safeguard the industry from this form of corporate corruption. And I would go so far as to label them criminal drug cartels, right? Because that's what they are. They're just masquerading as legal entities.
Well, I want to be clear. We're not talking about all I-502 companies. I'm a partner in an I-502 company, for example. And so what we're talking about is that when there's three categories of criminal drug cartels that we talk about in the flyer and on the homepage of howtochangetheworld.org. One of those are the I-5 mega cartels. The other is the I-502 mini cartels, and the third is, you know, the partnership between the two. The I-502 mini cartels are simply criminal organized crime that has penetrated I-502 in one way or another, and there are a lot of ways. They've found a lot of ways, creative ways to penetrate, and a lot of it is homegrown. A lot of it is from outside the state, so that's what we're referring to, because this criminalization of the cannabis industry, not criminalization in terms of federal prohibition. That's really the root of the problem, is federal prohibition. It's by no means any kind of solution. That is the problem. So I'm not, when I say criminal, I'm not talking about in terms of breaking federal law in the prohibition laws specifically. What I'm talking about is true criminality. You know, theft, fraud, murder, arson, extortion, and true crimes against humanity and crimes against the planet. So that's what I talk about when I talk about the criminalization of the cannabis industry. And so now what I want to highlight, Mike, Gold Leader, is that the criminalization of the industry and purging criminality from the cannabis industry, and actually transforming the cannabis industry into the world's first compassionate industry, truly compassionate industry across all relevant dimensions, notably social and environmental, ecological. That is a huge golden opportunity, which goes hand in hand with the opportunity of purging the criminal drug cartels. So I just want to highlight those are two separate opportunities, which are highly symbiotic, because as we purge criminality from our planet, starting with the criminal drug cartels, because we start with the criminal drug cartels, we open it up for the cannabis and actually the cannabis and hemp industry to be the world's first compassionate industry and participate in healing the planet, as opposed to being yet another vehicle for organized crime to cause multiple harms to people on the planet. I'm going to go on mute, Gold Leader.
Red Leader, I think what you're saying is both provocative and profound. I think it's not necessarily obvious at first that that's the way to go. But given that in the hands of any number of squadrons, the map, right, that details the plan of the Death Star, you're essentially starting by knocking out one central component that happens to be vulnerable, right? Legalization has made cartels more vulnerable. They've tried to enter into the arena. They're there as players, but at the same time, they're more vulnerable than ever, and we need to safeguard legalization, precisely by taking out the illegal drug cartels. We need to turn the tide in the corporate culture. And a brilliant way to begin is with the cannabis industry itself. So we need to safeguard it from illegal drug cartels. Criminal.
Absolutely, absolutely. And another major benefit to purging criminal drug cartels, because they are a pure evil, right? They are just pure evil. It's so easy for humanity to unite against them and to stand up to them. And so it has the benefit that this movement will unify humanity. So we unite humanity behind the obvious objective of purging criminal drug cartels for the obvious benefits of purging them. And then in the process, we open up the conversation, just as we're doing right now on this recorded video conference. We open up the conversation to creating the world's first compassionate industry and creating a model for other industries, not only to follow, but to actually build upon, right? And evolve upon, right? So thus beginning the transformation of the global economy to a compassionate economy. And then following the progression of dominoes that we outline on the homepage of howtochangetheworld.org, following that progression, we work through all of the world's major problems. First, eliminating criminal drug cartels, then all forms of organized crime, including organized crimes against Mother Earth, of which there are many and well known. We simply start with criminal drug cartels, go from there, and as we purge the crimes against Mother Earth and there's no more crimes being caused against Mother Earth, then we can shift all of our energy to healing Mother Earth and healing ourselves from all the destruction that we've caused over the last, few centuries. So, but accelerating over the last several decades, accelerating tremendously. So this is our grand strategy, and we're starting. I liken it often to lighting a bonfire. You want to get this whole bonfire going, and there's big, thick, soaking logs and deep in the middle of the bonfire.
Sorry, did you say bonfire?
Bonfire, BONFIRE. Yeah, but anyway, but thank you for that. And by the way, we can't see you, Gold Leader. It'd be nice to see you. I didn't know if you knew that your camera was off. But anyway, but no pressure if you need the privacy. See, that's part of being compassionate, right? Is we give people their privacy. And so this is the grand strategy that we propose, starting with purging criminal drug cartels for all these different reasons. And so as we root down and as we discuss all these different reasons, we will, so many things will open up, so many new connections will open up. And of course, that's the essence of collective intelligence. And that's yet another crucial goal. One of the most important, in fact, is that as we unify humanity around any goal, in this case, purging criminal drug cartels is the first step, we will build a critical mass of humanity that, working together using appropriate frameworks for collective intelligence, will then be able to come up with all the solutions and all the possibilities for solving all of the world's problems holistically, whether using the domino metaphor or some matrix metaphor or anything else for that matter. Going on mute, Gold Leader, and we can see you just fine now. Thank you.
Red Leader, I would say that if it seems arbitrary to our audience, that's because it is arbitrary. In other words, you have to start somewhere, right? In a triage situation, you start with a threat that's the most immediate. And from there, you move towards the threats that are more widespread, right? The threats that are more, as we say, intractable. So it could be criminal drug cartels. Well, that's the state of Washington, right? There's a very serious threat there. Of course, we could, talk about Mexico and so on and so forth. There's a lot of problems confronting the world. But the fact is, with legalization, the threat of drug cartels has become at once more vulnerable and immediate.
Yeah, and I would add that what makes it such a major threat right now, I mean, look, let's face it, it's not that you hear on nightly news every day criminal drug cartels killing people. They certainly are killing people, but it's not really making, front page, here in the state of Washington. In fact, the numbers of people who are dying is pretty horrific. The number of overdoses, drug overdoses in the United States as a whole has skyrocketed. It is now an epidemic. More people die every year from drug overdoses than car accidents.
That's gold, red leader.
Yes, gold leader.
That I think you've hit upon with the pharmaceuticals and the overdoses, right? An aspect that society has been turning a blind eye to for some time, but that is intimately involved in illegal drug cartels. Look, we're talking about crooked doctors. We're talking about a black market, right, to feed people's addictions. And it's only now that we're starting to awaken to the horror of it all.
Absolutely. It is absolutely horrific. We have an epidemic of overdoses from, pharmaceuticals, from heroin, from, cocaine, all kinds of drugs. And so the magnitude of the harm, I think, has really been downplayed in, just in the media and in the popular conversation. And that's one of the reasons we're doing what we're doing, is to really open it up. And as we do so, a collective intelligence is forming around this topic of purging criminal drug cartels, and then the symbiotic parallel topics of building the world's first compassionate industry, et cetera, right? Reducing all of these harms, human, environmental, et cetera, societal. And then as this collective intelligence forms and swarms around the problem of criminal drug cartels and purges them, right, the collective intelligence will build its muscles, right, its mental muscles of how to divide and conquer major problems like purging criminal drug cartels. And so in the process, we'll leverage the collective intelligence of Mexico. For example, Centro Fox, that headed by former Mexican President Vicente Fox, my friend, with whom I've had the honor of doing multiple events. I think we've done 6 events, big public events together in our lifetime. 4 of which were focused on legalization of cannabis back in 2013. And we can leverage the collective intelligence of that entire country and study their trajectory. At first, it was just people that were quietly smuggling, dope and whatever across the mountains and the waters and the highways and whatnot. And in the process, what they did was they paved the way. They pioneered. They blazed the trails for smuggling to the United States. Once those trails were blazed, connections with the Colombian cartels led them to form partnerships and start smuggling cocaine through that same trade route, those same trade channels. And at first, it was just this very quiet smuggling thing that, nobody really even knew was happening, other than, DEA and whatnot. And of course, the Mexican military and police, law enforcement and whatnot. But since no one was really getting hurt, a lot of people just turned a blind eye, because then a lot of cash was able to get laundered in the Mexican economy, and it became sort of like, an impulse to the Mexican economy. But like any hard drug, what feels good at first ultimately will kill you if you keep doing more and more of it. Well, Mexico kept doing more and more of it, and I remember as recently as the late 90s and early 2000s, talking with ranking Mexican political figures who basically said, oh yeah, the drug cartels, they just fight among themselves. They just kill each other, but they're not, they don't harm the rest of society. Well, I actually operated a business in Mexico, Scheibele International, during the very years that the drug cartels went from basically being in that sort of, viewed in that light, that, okay, so they just fight among themselves, and, we kind of let them do their thing, all the way to them taking over much of the judicial system of Mexico, deep infiltrations of law enforcement, politicians, certain politicians, certainly not all, thank God. But the threats of Plata o Plomo are really severe. So they terrorize society at all levels. And anyway, that falling off of a cliff in terms of Mexican society being taken over to a very large degree by the criminal drug cartels, it was just heartbreaking. And I saw so many people being killed, including some dear friends. And it's so sad, and it doesn't have to happen. We can nip this problem in the bud. To do so, we really need to understand the problem. We need collective intelligence to understand the problem. There's no one person who's an expert. I'm certainly not an expert at it. I've got certain very rich perspectives, such as the ones that I'm sharing, and I've got a lot of great contacts. But we really need to come at this and solve this problem together as a collective. Yeah. Anyway, I've been
well said, Red Leader.
Thank you, Gold Leader. Carry on. Thank you, Gold Leader.
Yes. I think the trajectory we're hitting upon is one that's going to resonate with any number of folks, albeit a certain target audience. But this is part of a larger campaign on how to change the world, right? We conceive of this domino effect, which has been proven mathematically, scientifically, etc., that you have to go after those problems which are the most susceptible to being solved. And from thence, you can go on to solve the larger problems because you've reached a certain critical threshold. And I think there we have the essence of collective intelligence in action.
Yeah, exactly. And let's live that collective intelligence in action. See, which is that we bounce off each other, and that's what we're doing right now. And another one key dimension that that we've been developing here is the dimension of crime, right? So we're basically, whereas climate change, blah blah, you can debate this or that or whatever, should we drive more or less, use public transport, what about this, that, the other, electric cars, but if you come and say crime, let's eliminate crime, it's pretty hard to argue with that. True criminality, right? Like we've talked about, murder and extortion and fraud. And I mean, just really bad things that are just absolutely bad. So that's something that you can't really argue with it. If there's two sides to take, you want to be on the side of, combating crime, purging crime. And by focusing on the pure criminality of criminal drug cartels, wow, well, it's just it's that perfect, starter domino to get the rest falling. Because crimes against Mother Earth, now that becomes much more controversial. Wait a second, God said that we're supposed to have dominion over the planet, over Earth. So of course we can use the oil and everything, and don't pay no mind to all those hoaxy politicians who are corrupt, right? So with that kind of misinformation going on, stalemate is much easier. And of course that's what we've got. We've got stalemate. We've got stalemate when it comes to solving our climate problems. But what I'm saying is, with criminality, especially criminal drug cartels, there will be no such stalemate. Sure, a lot of people are going to be, quietly, shutting their doors and windows and not wanting to participate in any of this because it's scary, right? Enough of us are stepping forward and saying, look, yeah, it is scary. I'll admit it, it's scary. I'm currently under threat and attack by a specific criminal drug cartel. And that's certainly no fun. And so but enough of us are saying enough is enough. And we're standing up and we're working together, we're collaborating and forming a collective intelligence to permanently purge all criminal drug cartels, first from the state of Washington. But once we've accomplished that, or as we're accomplishing that, of course, we're going to be partnering with other states across the country and around the world, right? Whether it's a specific state in Brazil or whether it's the entire nation state of Brazil, right? Any specific geography. So let's make, in the process, let's make this collective intelligence, which will be headquartered right here in Seattle, let's make it a global collective intelligence for purging criminal drug cartels, where we Washingtonians actively solicit input from other groups around the world, from other countries and other states, providing input into, this now experiment that we're running in the state of Washington of purging all criminal drug cartels. Back to you, Gold Leader.
Red Leader, I have to acknowledge your heroic effort to go in and draw their fire in a way that takes nothing short of courage. And the very fact that you've made it this far, I think, bespeaks to a miraculous power. I'm not going to name it. It's a force or whatever. That to me bespeaks volumes of the kind of heart, and courage comes from the word heart. It takes to take on criminal drug cartels, violent, virulent people who are hell-bent on taking out people and the planet.
Thank you. Thank you, Gold Leader. Thank you. Wow. The connection between heart and courage is really powerful, what you were saying. I remember a few months ago when I was interviewing Ed Brodo, the author, and I was acknowledging him for his courage. I told him, as far as I can see, courage is the ultimate expression of intelligence, because it takes the intelligence to see that this courageous action is absolutely necessary in order to move us forward, to have that foresight. So it's really, courage is the ultimate expression of foresight, because you see exactly what needs to be done, and you do it because you see that it would actually take even more courage to not take that action and to sit back and watch things just precipitously decline, as they are precipitously declining right now. So for me, what may look like a very courageous thing, yes, it does require courage, but for me, that comes from our collective intelligence, yours and mine and the rest of our colleagues who collaborate on a regular basis on developing this collective intelligence, which we'll be implementing a form of right here on howtochangetheworld.org, so everyone can participate in it. In fact, this inaugural video is very much a contribution to the collective memory. It's this conversation recorded and shared, so everyone can experience it as if they were here as a fly on the wall, or even as a participant, because then they can type in their comments, et cetera, into the YouTube video, which we welcome everyone to do. Please type in your comments, your questions, your challenges, your whatevers, right? And so, and in that way, you participate in the collective intelligence. So that's just kind of, these are baby steps into collective intelligence, but we'll be introducing all manner of taxonomies, wikis, the mashup of the two being Wixonomies, automatic transcription of video conferences, indexing of those transcripts so that they're made searchable, all kinds of connections between topics, connections between people and topics, So this whole topical information and intelligence graph or grid or matrix spanning people, conversations, recorded and live and ongoing and future scheduled conversations, agendas for which are being created in the moment, and all of the above. So past, present, future, the entire matrix of topics, the entire matrix of humanity, the entire matrix of technologies. And just as we had the model of the Death Star, we need a model of our own Death Star. We need a model of our own dying planet, and how to resuscitate and revive this patient called planet Earth, and most of complex life, which is now at the brink of rapid extinction. We're undergoing mass extinction right now. So anyway, I'm just saying that what may look like, wow, that's a lot of courage. It's really, for me, there is no other path. If we do not take these radical steps, radical in the sense of getting to the root of the problem, not radical in the sense of violent. I don't advocate for any kind of violence ever. But radical in the sense of we need to root down, get to the root of the problems. If it weren't for these, seeing that these radical steps are possible, I have to take these radical steps. The logical action right now is to swoop in and draw their fire, right? That's how we get this. That's how we get this party started. And so that's why I, sometimes dress up as Darth Vader and have my big, criminal drug cartels out of the state of Washington signs, and that's why we're doing these flyers. We're getting it out there and putting this message out there in front of everyone and saying, look, here is a way forward. Here's a path forward for saving ourselves and our beleaguered planet, our dying planet. And so, does anyone have any better ideas? If so, let's talk about them. And in parallel, let's continue this movement to purge society of criminal drug cartels. Or is there anyone in favor of keeping the cartels? If so, raise your hand, make your case. All right. See, that's the point. It's so unifying. Who on earth is going to stand up and say, no, we should keep the cartels. We should let the cartels expand. So it's just so unifying. So anyway, but I'm just saying, in parallel with that, if you have ideas for ways in which we can transform life on Earth and save our planet, bring them forward right here to howtochangetheworld.org. That's what we're here for. Back to you, Gold Leader.
Red Leader, it's one among many topics, but at the end of the day, we have to knock out the flux capacitor.
That's it. Very well said, Gold Leader. Very well said. Well, while I'm drawing their fire, why don't you and the Gold team focus on precisely the next, mapping out the next dominoes on the way to the flux capacitor.
We got your back.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, because I'm gonna be busy as heck drawing their fire down on the surface. So, and this is actually, this is a really powerful metaphor for me and for the entire collective intelligence is, we need to divide and conquer. So, Gold team will be focusing on certain things, Red team on others, and other teams will form. And we invite and welcome leaders of all stripes to join the collective intelligence, because there are so many areas, so many fronts on which to lead. Right? We've talked about taxonomies. Imagine a taxonomy of the entire planet, a taxonomy of all the world's problems, taxonomies of opportunities, all manner of taxonomies within which there are, growing fractals of topics and subtopics and related topics. We need leaders for each topic, especially the key strategic topics, such as organized crime, criminal drug cartels, abrupt climate change, habitat, the global economy, transforming the global economy, radically transforming the global economy. And of course, we've got a lot of conversations ongoing there that we'll connect to over time. And that's a key point, which is that all the different collective intelligences, because there's many different implementations of collective intelligence out there in the world. We're strongly pursuing the architecture of a new form of collective intelligence, a radical collective intelligence that leverages all these technologies that we've been mentioning many of, and that we're using right now through recorded video conferences.
And Red Leader, I'll add to that those who make micro contributions, right, to this form of collective intelligence, in a sense, they're contributing to something of which nobody really knows the magnitude.
Exactly. Think, in the building of the biggest cathedral imaginable, right? You've got a bricklayer there who's laying bricks, and somebody's walking along, he sees the bricklayer and says, "Hey, what are you doing?" "Well, I'm laying bricks." The guy keeps walking along, comes upon another guy laying bricks and says, "What are you doing?" He says, "I'm building a wall." He comes upon the third guy laying bricks 50 yards later and says, "What are you doing?" And he says, "I'm building a cathedral." So regardless of whether you just are focused on your task at hand or whether you're looking at the big picture, right? The point is action. We need to take action, and we need to coordinate our actions so that they maximize the purging of the evils, the purging of the crimes, and the healing of ourselves and the rest of our planet. So that coordinated action beckons to be coordinated by this radical form of collective intelligence, which is all-encompassing, holistic, and completely open to all of humanity. And Gold Leader, I want to be respectful of your time. I know it's late there in France, and I really appreciate your making the time. But anyway, back to you, Gold Leader.
Well, I think it's serendipitous, perhaps, that you talked about the brick-laden cathedral, because here where I'm at in the city of Albi is one of the largest brick cathedrals in Europe.
Wow, that's cool.
Right, just right across the bridge. Well, there. But in any case, there we have it. The proof positive. I think Red Leader, this has been a session that has helped us to come to terms with the reality of what we're up against, but also the courage to take it on. And so I hope we make the most of the moment so that we can go on knocking domino after domino down to ultimately free society from organized crime of all kinds.
Absolutely, including organized crimes against the planet, right? Think of all the different aspects of the oil and gas industry, which, while on paper obeying law after law after law, right, in aggregate constitute organized crimes against the planet. Arctic drilling, for crying out loud. Fracking, for crying out loud. These are organized crimes. The Dakota Access Pipeline, right? The Keystone XL Pipeline. These are organized crimes against Mother Earth. Enough is enough. So purging all crime, you see how it leads us from criminal drug cartels all the way through to saving what can be saved of our damaged and dying world. I mean, we're in such. Go ahead, back to you, Gold.
Well, with that, Red Leader, I think that we are drawing their fire already.
Yep. So anyway, there's a lot of dragons to be slain, but let's do it compassionately. We can transform so many of our problems compassionately and holistically. We don't have to be violent about it. So let's only take the metaphor of Red Leader to Gold Leader so far. Really, the metaphor is about collective action, coordination, right? Coming together, collective intelligence. I mean, they were using their
and courage.
And courage, yes. So for me, the drawing of their fire is metaphorical. The drawing of the fire is drawing of the fire of the conversation, the passion of the conversation that we all have to save ourselves and our planet from so many evils. And
the fire of the dragon.
The fire of the dragon. And so, me peacefully carrying my sign and peacefully handing out flyers, it's radical action because it gets to the root of the problem, but it is not violent. It is completely non-violent, completely peaceful. And that's the pillar of our ethos is compassion. We want to transform our world to a compassionate world, a loving world, a whole world, a world that's whole. And Gold Leader, you've said some very kind things to me, and so I'm going to say something here. Gold Leader, it is with your intellectual leadership, your vision, that we've been able to crystallize so many things, so many concepts, such as radical collective intelligence, and so many facets of that, and of humanity coming together, and of the development of our ethos and everything. So you just bring this massive bunker buster of intelligence into the problem of collective intelligence, the opportunity of collective intelligence. So I want to acknowledge you for that, and for your courage, which I maintain is really more of a manifestation of what's in our heart and what's in our collective intelligence, what we see. We're taking what I believe is the obvious path forward. So thank you, Gold Leader, and back to you.
Red Leader, it is an honor to serve with you.
Thank you, Gold Leader. Yeah, the honor is mutual. And it will be and to the rest of humanity, I say, it is an honor to serve you and our beloved planet. And so let's all serve each other and our planet. That's really the essence of the vision of a whole world that we have, that we really operate as one for all and all for one, including all species and ecosystems, and Mother Earth herself, of course. Let's be one big happy family again.
Yes, may the force be with you.
And also with you, Gold Leader. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next one. I give you the last word, Gold Leader.
See you on the next one, Red Leader.
Arigato gozaimasu. Arigato gozaimasu.
Doi itashimashite.